Welcome back, Washoe Walk-Ons fans, episode 373 of this here podcast. And we may have just lost to Nebraska, but sounds like Nebraska's taking more L's because I just opened up our Discord and saw that Mickey Joseph got locked up for domestic violence. So that feels like it has to be on the docket.
Sam McCown, sports editor and a Nebraska columnist for the Omaha World Herald, tweet from 2 minutes ago. Former interim Nebraska head coach Mickey Joseph has been arrested and booked into Lancaster County Jail on suspicion of strangulation and third-degree assault. Boys, what the fuck is going on?
He was practicing his jiu-jitsu.
with a non-consensual partner. What the fuck? What is going on?
Well, the bright side for them is they didn't name him their permanent head coach because that would have been a really tough look.
Can you imagine if they did?
I doubt Matt Rule will be keeping him on staff now.
Is this a spiral from him not being named the guy? Like the timing is
Impeccable.
Is a little bit mysterious. Boys, strangulation? Is Drake in Omaha? Because he might
I don't see
be.
anything wrong with it.
That's the issue, Drake. That's the thing. Is for you. Here, you want to know what? You're with the commenter. The first comment on that tweet is "Let's hire Mickey," and it comes from an account that is titled Trev Fat Alberts. Twitter's amazing.
Honestly, just sounds like he should be appointed like head of the riot committee or something, you know?
I was gonna say make him Matt Rule's security. You know? Guy's got a great triangle, I guess.
He must.
Unbelievable. Can you imagine if Goat Wallace was arrested for strangulation? Or like one of our coaches, like that's the equivalent. This is unbelievable.
Oh, it is.
What?
I'm just making fun of you for being retarded.
So we started with that on 373. Where do you go from there?
I don't know. That's just a good start.
Where does Nebraska go from there? I mean, Matt Rule's hiring was on the docket, so I guess we just.
I think it's a good get for them.
He was successful at Temple.
Very much so.
Successful at Baylor.
Very much so.
Pulled them out of a shithole spot. Not successful in Carolina at the professional level.
Thing, dude. We've seen amazing college coaches not be good at the professional level.
It's honestly, it's almost incomparable, the job of an NFL head coach to a college head coach.
It's totally different. It's totally different. I'd love to have a couple. God, we need a couple coaches on that have actually done it I'd love to hear a couple coaches talk about the difference from their perspective.
Let's just call Saban.
You want to call Nick?
I'll call him.
Okay. When you get his number, let me know, and we'll bring him on the Washed Up Walk-Ons.
I'd ask.
Some people can do it, but it's you're no longer coaching kids. School is no longer part of the equation.
Don't have to recruit anymore.
You don't recruit. It's all about scouting, which you have an entire department for. Adult management, in a way. You are
ego management.
Yeah, ego management. You're like the HR. You're like head of HR as an NFL head coach. It's totally different. You're not responsible for developing them as men. You kind of expect them to already be there. It's weird. It's weird. But they get Matt Rule, and he said all the right things so far. Again, a good podcast host. This is where I really lack, because being one of the hosts and 1/3 of this ordeal, if we had like a true producer on this show, they'd like put up a clip of his press conference. But he's saying all the right things. Said he wants to establish the line of scrimmage. He wants to recruit and win at the line of scrimmage with physicality and a good run game. I don't know. Drake, when you were gone from the Searles podcast, we talked about, Kevin posed the question to Searles, how long does a coach deserve to turn around a program? And Kevin said at least 3 years, but then we kind of arrived, Jeremiah and I both said 5. And it's like, you kind of need that long. Probably should see improvement by year 3. So we're probably looking at a half decade of Matt Rule now. And he's getting paid.
How many years did they give Frost? Because he sucked for as many years as he was there. So that tells you how long their leash is.
6.
There you go.
5. 18, 19, 20, 21, 4.5.
There you go. You
That was
better
it?
get her done by year 4 or start looking for a vacation.
Yeah, 2018 was his first year, I believe. Yeah.
Which you sort of noted, or Searles noted that in year 3 for him, there wasn't really a lot of signs of improvement.
It has to be trending upwards, right?
Yeah.
And if it's trending, you're at year 3 and trending status quo or down, then you could probably make the decision like, hey, we gotta change course here. But if it's like year 3 and you've got some forward momentum, you gotta give him a little bit more leash.
Can't strangle people either.
No strangling people.
Gotta stay away from the strangulation charges.
I know it's tempting, but that's something we do have to avoid.
That's why Drake.
I wish Brian.
That's why Drake actually started doing jujitsu, because then he could do it legally.
That's facts. I mean, that is 100% facts. Drake, if you didn't do jujitsu, you would have gotten a charge by now.
I'd be dead.
You'd be dead by now.
Try to strangle the wrong person.
Dude.
I think
I was not in a good place pre-jiu-jitsu. We were
in a good place?
In the wrong fucking direction, boys.
I mean, like Coover said, are we in a good place now? How are we doing, Drake?
Much better. I mean,
arguably. I mean, relative, I suppose.
Yeah, it's all relative. You can only grade on your own scale.
What scale? What number are you right now? Like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10?
I don't know,
How big is the curve in your test? You know, like, is everyone failing, but you get curved up to a B, or is it a small curve in Drake's?
No, it's a small curve.
Okay, that's good.
It hooks slightly to the left.
Now, there have been some fails on that curve for sure.
It's been a few drops.
But I'll tell you what, I'm passing right now.
Good job, Drake. That's all you gotta do is pass every day, right?
That's right.
Tell you what, if that fake contractor tries to come at you, it might be the end of the curve.
Be a short day for him.
Shout out to DHT for those who know.
See you when I see you.
Discord was wild today. Swish was on another level.
Can't believe he said what he said.
I
Can't believe he did what he did.
I can believe it. And if you guys, I'm not even arguing for you to come to the Patreon anymore. I don't even want you there. If you're not there already, I don't want you. But if you are there and you're not participating in the Discord, or at least like lurking, make an account and just lurk and listen to the conversations that happen in that place. It's a magical place. It's like an adult Disney World. Crazy.
That's one way of putting it.
Drake, You just eating nuts right now, buddy? You're just snacking on nuts, huh?
Gotta get my protein.
And that's the route, huh? Nuts for protein.
Hey, if you eat almonds all day and then you eat your meals, you're getting a whole lot more protein, are you not?
I guess a little bit, yeah. You guys,
This is saying 6 grams per handful. So actually, it's saying 6 grams per ounce, which is much less than a handful. So
okay.
Suck my balls. How's that sound?
I would prefer not to join you in eating the nuts.
Well, that's what you need to do. Put these balls in your mouth. Pussy.
Someone breaking in, Kev? Every time you look out your window in your office, I feel like someone's breaking in.
Yeah, man, I just gotta keep an eye on these fools out here, man.
Yeah, out in Tiffin, in the rich people area.
Yeah, in your neighborhood.
I don't live in Tiffin.
Yeah, that's why I said it, Kevin. I don't want to dox you.
I kind of do. Should we?
Think
I have
pretty
Kevin's
well.
address.
Since he's being a smart ass, let's just pull up the GPS and put a red marker on his doorstep.
I've got both your addresses saved because I send you gear sometimes, so I can just dox you both, and I'll put mine on there too. Fuck it.
I wish
Doxing
someone would come try me.
Come try me.
Yeah, Kevin will just tear his pec in an armbar again.
Damn right.
Yeah.
I saw this funny video. It's like the caption is breaking into the house of a guy who does jujitsu, and guy breaks in.
He just sits down.
The guy immediately sits down on the ground. Like, what are you gonna do?
I saw a similar one. It was like when the guy breaks in and knows jujitsu, but so does the homeowner, and they both sit down. Fucking hilarious.
And you know what's hilarious? This is really applicable because yesterday at wrestling practice, which I am not good at, I got absolutely murked by an 18-year-old kid, multiple time state champ. It was very clear how many levels there are to like human domination, because that motherfucker ate my lunch in wrestling.
You got to be the sub.
Now, when we went to jiu-jitsu, I sat down and I promptly put him in a triangle. But that just plays into your point.
I guess that's and that's where I don't even understand, because I would think that jiu-jitsu, you'd be able to translate it to wrestling.
Wrestlers are very good at negating jiu-jitsu for a period of time.
Okay. Huh. You guys post your Spotify Wrapped yet, or?
Don't even have Spotify, pal.
Not a Spotify guy myself.
Yeah,
I have the free version, and I listen to Rogan and Rogan only, so it would have one name on there, and it would say Bro Jogan.
Drake's that guy. You're like, oh, he listens to Joe Rogan.
And I don't listen to him that much. I listen to most of the ones that he does with, and most of the ones he does with MMA fighters. And then I'll listen to a political analyst every once in a while, or like whoever those smart socio-economical people are, and try and figure out what's going on in the world. But then I get mad, and then I just go back to the comedians.
I get mad. Sounds about right. How about the boys, Ike and Bo, having us in their top 5?
Feels good.
Feels good, man. Feels real good that the boys are out there supporting us.
Out there checking in, seeing what we're doing every day.
I do love the old text from Ike or Ike or Josie or Bo every now and then about referencing something we said on the podcast.
Yeah.
Them getting a kick out of it.
Because it's like, dude, why are you listening to us, bro? Like, what? You didn't care what any 3 of us had to say when we lived together.
They missed us, dude. They didn't want to miss us, and then they fucked around and missed us.
Yeah. They fell into it. It was a trap.
That's what they get for being too successful and moving halfway across the country and getting paid millions of dollars to play football.
I did one of those things.
Yeah, you did move halfway across the country.
Didn't get real successful or make millions of dollars, but I moved.
But you're trying.
Trying
your best.
Trying
your best.
We're going to turn this into a Joe Rogan style podcast. We're selling to Spotify for 100 mil.
Man, dude, I mean, at this point, 1 mil, just one.
That's your numbers, like okay, what's your numbers say you can never do this podcast again? Like, we own the rights and you're fired.
My cut or our cut?
You get 34% of the cut.
Okay, so I need my 34% to be.
Remember, this is forever now.
I know, but like in this scenario, I'm just not allowed to podcast anymore, or I have to if I want to podcast and rebuild, I can still do that.
You can rebuild, but Washed Up Walk-Ons is owned by somebody else, and you were not a part of it.
Okay, I'm confident in my abilities. I'd sell out right now if my 34% was worth
like $500.
I was $250. No. 400 or 500 grand.
Wow. Klubi, a little loyal to the brand. Let's go.
Yeah.
Either that, or I think you just really
he's just loyal to how much or how lucrative he knows this podcast can be in the future.
Well, yeah, I'm the one who looks at the numbers, and I know how much we can make if we keep going. So,
he
and
knows
if
how
we
much
keep
it's worth, Kevin.
If we can keep growing and finding ways to, I mean, make this profitable. It is a business as much as I love the people who are like,
when we're gonna stop fucking around selling feet pics.
I'll sell dick pics if anybody in the Patreon wants it.
Holy shit. I did say that I'd start the OnlyFans if all of Leo's predictions came true, which was like transfers and the offensive staff being wiped out and all this other shit that was going on. I was like, okay, I'll start an OnlyFans if that shit happens. Yeah, I'd say four or 500 grand, and then I'd rebuild. I'd start the, we could find something else. We could start.
Do you remember what our names were down to when we were first starting this podcast?
Yes.
We were like 3 votes away from being called 2 yard dogs and a polecat.
Yeah. Which was
too,
it was too specific. I didn't hate it, but it was too specific.
I didn't hate it either, dude.
Because
you didn't hate man, I hated that one. Did not like it.
It was just, it's a lot. It's a mouthful, right?
Yeah. Washed Up Walk-Ons just
I like
it's just like McDonald's, man. It's like it just works.
Wow. You think we're McDonald's?
No, I'm saying like the name. You ever watch the movie The Founder?
I haven't, and I've been meaning to.
And I'll fast forward to the end. He's like, you know what the thing about it was? It was the name. McDonald's. That's what it is. It's just like
I get it.
Classic, rolls off the tongue. Washed Up Walk-Ons, man.
It's got the it factor. It really does. Like there is this like when I try to break down the success of this podcast on the back end of things, and I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm trying to think of how do we build off of the infrastructure of what we have, right? We've got this name, we've got, we use the Hawk colors, we've got Hawks by a Million, we have the Patreon, all this different stuff, the donation to the kids hospital. And sometimes I think of like, man, we got lucky. There's a few things we just got lucky with. One, our chemistry sort of off the chain, right? The way that us three, when we're all together, interact and contribute to the pie.
We can say very mean things to each other and still be okay with each other.
Well, that was sort of.
I doubt there's a podcast out there that knows each other as intimately as.
It'd be tough.
Take that as any way you will, as we do.
Well, I'm sure there's some couples out there who do podcasts who have.
Yeah, Kevin and I banged Kluver once. What do you want?
And yeah, we'll sell the video that we took of it on the OnlyFans when we started.
But that's going to be a top tier subscription.
Yeah, that's like you're gonna have to be at this $100 tier for like 2 years for that to unlock. It's pretty intimate. I mean, Kevin and I basically would sit there and talk Clash of Clans and life and just like literally sit in our doorways for just hours. God, there was some good conversation. I missed the fuck out of that,
Do you
man.
remember our plan? Like we had laid out a whole ass syllabus of how we were going to teach a class at the University of Iowa of Clash of Clans.
That's
We
how
were
you
into
guys
that
use
shit,
your
man.
free time.
Well, I mean, yeah, Kevin and I, there were some spans in there where we spent an ungodly amount of time on a certain thing that we just shouldn't have, right? Kevin and I think we've mentioned this before. There was a 3-month period where Kevin and I got stuck in permanent KF voice.
It's true. Literally
we were-
everything we said to each other was in KF voice.
When we were outside of the building,
Couldn't stop it too. It was just involuntary at that point.
it was permanent to the point where we were annoying each other with it. We're like, fuck, we gotta stop. But everything, oh shit, all right. You fucking hungry? Let's go to Ponchero's, huh? Fuck, let's get in the car. I mean, it was ridiculous. Everything. We would say goodnight to each other in KF voice.
Now, well, that's that's a little homo, but
Oh shit. All right.
did you order your poncheros at a KF voice?
We might have. May have. It was ridiculous. Obviously there was a I believe it was 11 or 12 days that we finished all 60 episodes of Game of Thrones.
It was it was 2 calendar weeks, but we only watched on like 11 days.
11 of the 14 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not all right.
Yeah, we just did things that were just drawn out a lot. And we had big ideas, and the podcast was not one of them. I don't know how. We did pizza reviews. We were the Dave Portnoy of Iowa City.
You weren't, though.
And no, we were. And people loved it.
They didn't.
They did. I had people adding me on Snapchat that didn't even know me because they heard there was pizza reviews going on.
People were hyped. It was Thursday around 1:00. Hey, when's the pizza review coming out?
I had people
bro. I
had
fucking
people-
hated those.
Yeah, so did everybody at first.
You remember we made Christmas cards our senior year.
We
too.
made Christmas cards.
We got the one bite, everybody knows the rules t-shirts, and we made Christmas cards for the whole team.
We passed them out to the entire fucking team. God damn it, we were assholes. Holy shit.
Like that's like one of the things, like as a freshman, you get like beat up for doing something like that.
People look at you like, what the fuck are these guys?
Who the fuck is this guy?
But then by
As a
senior
you
year,
can just fuck around and do whatever.
you've earned the respect, and now you're making Christmas cards. Kevin and I posed in the Step Brothers, the cover of the Step Brothers movie. I believe, I don't know who's sitting down and who's standing up, but one has his hands on the other shoulder.
Kevin was standing.
Okay. And made a Christmas card, spent like, I don't know, $100 on Christmas cards.
Nah, honestly, Walgreens, they ain't that expensive. It was like
$40.
Yeah,
Okay, it was like $40.
completely worth it.
Oh yeah, totally worth it. We should get Mickey Joseph on the podcast.
We should definitely reach out to Mickey Joseph.
I think he'd come on.
He should be on an episode of Dickhead Tuesday. Talk us through
At this
talk
point.
us through the sequence. You know, how did he get her down? What takedown did he use? What did he do to secure the back? Did she struggle? Was it easy? I want to know the details.
Okay. Who says it wasn't a guy? You know, could have been. Could have been. Does Matt Rule worry you at Nebraska even 1/10?
They're gonna fucking stink no matter what. It just depends on if we stink worse.
Okay.
If we continue to stink, then that's our fault. They're
How
always gonna
about Luke Fickle at Wisconsin?
That's a better hire. Luke Fickle was really good at Cincinnati, and Wisconsin is a historically good program. So
That could be a problem.
That is dangerous.
That's dangerous.
You know, I think
we'll want to play for them.
Yeah, I agree with Drake. Halfway. I think Matt Rule will take Nebraska back to a competitive level.
You think
Unfortunately.
he'll at least make a bowl game?
He will make some bowl games. Absolutely. Yes.
I agree.
Whether he takes it to like being the top of the Big Ten West for as long as the Big Ten West is still a thing, who knows? If he can get it back to like where they were even in Bo Pelini years. But I
Man, dude, that's
100%
tough.
expect 100% expect them to improve over what they've shown basically over the last 7, 8 years, right?
It's hard not to.
Right. I mean, it's a low bar, honestly, right?
I mean, dead ass, Kevin. I'm serious with this question. If for some godforsaken reason, Trev Alberts called, you got a call, you're on your way to like fix a knee, and he's like, Kev, I don't know you. I heard a lot of great things. We'd love for you to take over the Nebraska program. You don't have a choice. You're coming to Nebraska. And you're like, okay, I mean, fuck, it's $7.5 million for the first year. I'll take it. You're like, okay, I'm moving to Lincoln. Could Kevin Ward not fucking win 3 games at Nebraska? 4 games? I swear to God, this is a dead ass question.
You schedule me 3 cupcakes at the beginning of the year. I'll win 3 games.
Dude, I'm saying. Drake, do you think so?
Yeah, dude, Kevin's a smart enough guy to hire a good staff. You got a good enough staff, you're gonna win games.
I swear to God, I actually, if you put odds on it, I would bet money on Kevin Ward to go in and by year 4 have a better season than Scott Frost's best season, which I think was 5 wins.
I think they went to a bowl. Did they go to a bowl as a 5-7 team one year?
They have. I don't believe so. I'll check on that. But Kevin, give me your thoughts on that scenario.
Did Scott Frost coach games hammered drunk? Because in the press conferences, he looked like hell, and
Like hell.
his teams always stink. So
the guy looked like he was always coming off like an 18-hour bender at the casino where he's just chain smoking some cigs.
Railing coke.
Yeah. He looked like an unhealthy person there, especially towards the end.
They did not go to a bowl game as a 5-win team. Their last bowl game was the Music City Bowl in 2016.
Tough.
Last Power 5 conference to not make a bowl game. Longest drought of a bowl game for a Power 5 team.
Wow. Really that bad, huh?
Because Kansas ended that this year.
Good for them. Man. I think, honestly, being a head coach, the coaching football part might be the easiest part.
Because all your position coaches are doing it.
Well, even that, man, like, you got to think about like recruiting, building a culture, and getting a good staff. I think all of those are more difficult than actually coaching the sport of football.
Agree.
And that's why like head coaches these days are more like you want like a CEO type person than like sometimes there's great offensive and defensive coordinators out there who just aren't fit to be head coaches. And a lot are, right? But there's some that like, the position of head coach just doesn't come natural to them. They're just good. They were just good offensive coordinators, had a great offensive or football mind or defensive football mind, but the head coach has a different skill set requirement.
I would argue that there's some flipped ones too. There's probably some guys out there who wouldn't be great coordinators, but could lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'll catch hate for this. I think Brian might be one of those guys. I think Brian would be a great head football coach. Unfortunately, he hasn't proven to be a even good offensive coordinator, at least statistically. There's some arguments in there of how much you can really judge him based on the freedom he's been given, the ingredients he's baking the cake with.
I mean, there's one thing that's really no doubt is he's a damn good position coach.
Damn good at the O-line.
Yeah.
And the one thing that Brian had was passion, and players get behind that passion. People know he cares, and they would follow. And I mean, Drake's talked about it. Drake would follow. We would all follow him into fucking war. I'd have Brian on my side of war any day. And that's like the kind of head coach that you want. It's very similar to KF. He has a lot of his dad's qualities. I would follow when KF starts to get emotional, dude, sign me up. There isn't many things. You think back to the times of the Gladiator where the 300 were like, hey, we're going to die for our people, right? The Persians are going to just murder the fuck out of us, but we will die with honor. I think about that and I go, Well, maybe I'm sick that day, you know? I'm a bit of a pussy. I'm sick that day, right? Sorry, Leonidas, but I'm feeling a little under the weather and my spear isn't I forgot to sharpen it. But if KF is at the head of the pack, lead me into war, baby. Give me death.
I would love to watch Kluber get speared in the forehead
That's not the point of this conversation.
Why the forehead?
Come on.
because it's huge and it's shiny and it's a perfect target for a spear.
I'd headbutt it.
Dude, I'll tell you what. One thing that I think could make Kevin a great head coach that a lot of head coaches don't have.
Tell me.
How fucking sexy he is, dude. Imagine him just walking up in these at-home visits, telling the old man and the kid to go have a game of catch while he rails the mom, and then next week the kid's committed to his university.
Please inform me. How in your mind does banging the recruit's mom while
Dude,
the son and
moms-
dad are outside
Moms
playing
have
catch?
a lot of pull in families, dude. She can really say, listen, that Coach Ward, he really wants the best for you. He's the one. I'm telling you.
I can't. I love this podcast so much. Oh fuck.
I can't even say it. What the fuck?
Listen here, Mrs.
What?
Johnson. I've
What?
seen your son's tape, right? The kid can tote the rock. Okay. He's an incredible athlete.
I feel like you should use a different name than Mrs. Johnson and tote the rock because we literally have a running back named Caleb Johnson who's toting the rock for us right
Maybe,
now.
yeah, that you're probably right. Johnson's just like very common and running back. Okay. Mrs. Smith. Boy, your son can play. He can really play DB. He's got great ball awareness. And I have a feeling that he gets that ball awareness from you.
You have pretty good ball awareness too, Mrs. Smith.
Now, when is Mr. Smith getting home? Because I do have some things that I'd like to lay out. And one of them's my cock.
Yeah, one of them's pipe.
I can't believe this. Please turn our podcast off. This is smut. This is fucking horrible. Don't listen to this with your kids. It's a disclaimer. This is unbelievable.
You put the disclaimer way too late there, pal.
All things said and done, Kevin is absolutely mind blown right now.
I have no idea how I have a job still sometimes.
All things said, though, Drake, I think Kevin would have a little bit of that Matt LaFleur to him, right? Obviously, if LaFleur doesn't have to recruit, but maybe a little. Who's a good-looking college coach right now? I don't even know. Most of them are fat old dudes.
McVay's a good-looking cat.
Yeah, but they're both in the NFL. Regardless, Kevin, he would have a little of that swag, right? He'd walk in, and they'd like to sit down with him and talk about football, talk about their future. I think Kevin could build a culture. I think Kevin's culture would be awesome. It'd be great. They would be disciplined.
Throwing bombs and banging moms.
I think Wilson has the lock on that one.
Yeah, that's true. Zach Wilson, all time.
Talk about a good-looking kid.
Quarterback, all time. Saw him in person. Nothing special.
But he's not bad looking,
No, not a bad looking kid, but he ain't Jimmy G.
He's
You
not.
see Jimmy G in person, you start thinking about your sexuality a little differently.
Well, Jimmy G, that's a man right there. And Zach
Yeah.
Wilson, Zach Wilson's still a little boy, kind of.
And
It almost feels
Wilson literally looks like.
Did you see his whole team is calling him Himmy G now?
Yeah, Himmy, because of George. Yeah, you start looking at those two, you start to feel a little pedophilic about Zach Wilson. But Jimmy G, you're like, wow, that guy could start a family with just about anybody. I swear to God, I think you could get bare minimum, you could go 4-8 every year. With their
Oh, we're back on
resources,
this now? Okay.
that's where this all started. Somehow we ended up in places that we really didn't want to be. And that's
You're on a
kind
podcast with me, dude.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most important job for a head coach is getting. God, how many people do you have in staff?
I think there's 10
19
assistant coaches
10 assistant
and
coaches, and then another 20 or so staffers, whatever.
probably.
Yeah, I think that is by far the most important job of a head coach is getting good people around you.
I agree.
Because you can only do so much as the one guy, right?
I think it goes a little underrated with how the coaching staff becomes a family themselves. The culture within the staff, even.
Yeah, exactly. That and like the lack of turnover or or the other side of it, if you have like the same head coach, but you're constantly turning over assistant coaches,
Yeah.
it makes it hard for your players to kind of get any continuity. And a lot of coaches coach things different ways too. So, yeah, to be able to build a culture that has some consistency, some longevity at your position coaches as well. Yeah, I think that's huge.
And you know what I thought, and I guess, from what I see, it's a little bit shocking to everybody. I really thought that Leonard was going to be the guy to do that for Madison, Wisconsin and the Badgers. That one was a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, the word on the street was that they fired Chris to make room for Leonard, right?
Thought so.
That was kind of like the feeling, and then I don't know.
I heard that it was just not but a week ago, during the last week of the year, like before the Iowa game or before week 13, I guess they played Minnesota. Like, hey, this is sort of a done deal. We're ready to introduce you as our head coach, and that things changed in a week.
I bet it was just for them. It was like, hey, he's our guy unless we can get top
Fickle.
3 names on their list or something like that.
And Fickle's top 3 in the country for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were saying for a long time Fickle wasn't going to leave that job except for Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a good coach. He's done great things there at Cincinnati. It'll be interesting to see. Like he was recruiting very well there for an American team. He was getting some really good recruits. It'll be
crazy good recruits.
Yeah, how many guys he gets to follow him there from Cincinnati, kind of like what happened from Oklahoma to USC. But yeah, I think it'll take both those coaches, but in Matt Rule and Fickle, time to get their systems and their guys integrated. But long term, I think both those programs will be better than they have been this year.
I agree.
Wisconsin's been a good program for a long time. This is a down year for them.
Yeah.
Over the course of the next 2 years, I don't see them being better than what they were beforehand. But possibly long term, I don't know. It'd also be interesting to see. A lot of coaches have not liked how much of a hand Barry Alvarez has had in that program.
He's got a lot of power.
He's the AD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Be interesting to see how much freedom Fickle gets to bring his system into Wisconsin that hasn't typically run that kind of program.
I'm looking at the recruiting rankings right now for Cincinnati.
Where did he go after Cincinnati, or has he been at Cincinnati this whole time?
You mean before?
He was in the NFL before Cincinnati, right?
He's coming from Cincinnati to Wisconsin. Let me look it up. But the last 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 22, he raised, obviously he's got a staff there, whatever. Their average recruiting ranking bumped up 20 places in the last 3 years. From like the low 60s to like the low mid 40s. It's pretty fucking good for Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Fickle was at Ohio State. He was the special teams coach, linebackers coach, defensive coordinator.
He's Coach Woods.
Yeah.
This is Coach Woods' projection. This is where Coach Woods is going to end up.
Yeah, and he played at Ohio State as well. So
somebody should really pay Coach Woods $1 bazillion before it's too late. Because once you miss on him, you missed.
Yeah,
he's going.
I mean,
he's going to have a KF tenure. I'm telling you. His
refresh, Drake. You're becoming a robot. As he bumps out here, we're gonna continue conversation. Fickle could take Wisconsin to heights that we.
It'll be interesting, man. I think he's a really good coach, and he's shown that he can compete and win at a high level. But sometimes, your style of play, your program, your culture that you bring doesn't work at particular schools and geography. And Wisconsin might just be one of those, but I think he'll have success there. Absolutely, I do.
Where do you think Leonard ends up?
I don't know. I think the guy's definitely bare minimum getting a DC job somewhere. I think he's a damn good coach. I think he got put in a really tough situation taking over as an interim, and bunch of distractions, talking about having to recruit his guys every day because people are trying to pick him off as soon as Chris was out the door. Pick off his best players, and just trying to keep the team moving forward. Just a really hard situation. Maybe he's just not quite ready for a head coaching job yet, but we've definitely not heard the last of him. He'll find a good coaching job somewhere.
What's interesting is and I don't know how much his stock is really that high right now, but Campbell is like one of the top 3 or 5 names right now to replace Fickle at Cincinnati.
So it's a good question. Is that a step up, or because he came from Toledo, right?
He came from Toledo.
Yeah. So he came from the MAC. I guess, I guess it is going to be a Big 12 school next year. So it would be a lateral move, maybe even a step up. I don't know.
Yeah. Iowa State is not a premier place to be a coach. It never has been. Cincinnati, they just recently went undefeated, played in a BCS game, and they're kind of on the uptick. I'd much rather play for a team or coach for a team that's on the uptick than a team that's just perennially nobodies.
Yeah, so I think the tough thing about taking the Cincinnati job is you have, especially in this day and age where, you can transfer and play right away. So you're going to have a lot of attrition. You're going to come into like an empty cupboard of, guys who just left, each class is going to have like half their guys left maybe or something like that. And then it's your first year in the Big 12. I think that's a really tough situation to walk in. I think Cincinnati might have a tough year regardless who they hire next year.
I agree.
But Iowa State has a tough year every year regardless.
You're right.
It's tough to be Iowa State.
Iowa State is a great place for coaches like Iowa State, quite honestly, is a great place for coaches like Matt Campbell. And he might have overstayed his welcome if this was the projection he wanted to be on. But a coach that comes up in a MAC or a Sun Belt team or a Conference USA or something like that, where they just start blowing the doors off people, and he's the new hot coach. And now you can step it up to a Power 5 school like Iowa State, who has a pretty good fan base. You can get decent recruits there. You're probably never going to be a power, but you can use that as a step to then maybe ascend to.
He didn't though, because 3 years ago they would have gave him Belichick's job if he'd have took it, dude. He was Christ.
That's what.
So if that was all his plan, then it just wasn't, because this guy thought that he was just going to be the next KF at Iowa State. But
that's what he thought. And some coaches want that, right? Some coaches like KF. I mean, I'm sure there was points in KF's career where he could have taken. He could have
04, like lots of NFL.
After 2004 and KF was 5 years deep into Iowa, KF could have, if he was interested, he could have taken over any job that was open in the country.
Particularly NFL coaches or jobs were coming after him.
Specifically, he's been come after by NFL coach, jobs a lot.
Pause.
But some coaches, they don't care so much about the longevity. They aren't looking for the 20-year spot. They just kind of, Brian Kelly.
Fire and maneuver, man. Fire and maneuver. Get your 3 years in, then leave before it can go downhill.
It's a pump and dump, baby. Like
Urban Meyer, as soon as things look like they might be going downhill, I'm having
Heart
health
attack.
issues. Go.
What's his face?
As soon as Tim Tebow's graduating, I am also graduating.
Head coach of Ole Miss right now. I can't think of his goddamn name.
Lane Kiffin.
Kiffin. He's been all over the place.
I think that's more based off of behavior.
Some of it, but that's what some of these coaches are looking for. So it is what it is. But it'll be interesting. 2 Big Ten West.
Speaking of coaching hires, how can we not talk about this? You see, Hugh Freeze got back in the SEC.
I didn't.
Yeah, Auburn hired Hugh Freeze.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's interesting.
I don't know. Is Auburn what is Auburn a city in Alabama, or is it?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
It's a color.
Auburn,
Alabama. The ladies of the night of Auburn, Alabama, are about to get a big old payday.
Unbelievable.
The ladies of the night.
Tugboats.
Oh, Hugh Freeze is coming into town, man. He's going to be the #1 client.
Auburn, Alabama, 78,564 people. Area code 334. And Hugh Freeze is coming to town. And he's got a bag of presents. Yeah, so I don't know. The West now has 2 new head coaches. Again, like Kevin mentioned earlier, how long is the West even going to be the West? When UCLA,
I think as soon as UCLA and USC join the league, then everything's just kind of got to get tossed up a little bit, right?
That's what I would think. I don't know if they want to split into 2 8-team divisions.
I think they're talking about doing that, or also just doing away with divisions, and you just get
you just
get a random draw of 9 teams every year, and the top 2 records go to the Big Ten championship.
That's what I think. That's how I would do it.
But then it leaves room for several undefeated teams.
You're right. Would there ever be a scenario where 3 undefeated teams would happen?
Yeah, if you're only playing 9 teams a year,
yeah,
and there's 16 teams in the league, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Shit.
Yeah, so that's the sad thing about these ever expanding conferences is at some point you're hardly ever going to be playing anyone from, if you were to stay in divisions, you'd play like 1 cross-divisional game a year.
Yeah, because
which
Jesus.
I wouldn't miss not playing Rutgers, Maryland, or Indiana, but the Penn State, Michigan State games, Ohio State games, those are fun. I think the fans enjoy those.
Oh, they're fantastic games, and they create amazing matchups and memories and rivalries. I think the problem here as well is, and I've had this conversation on Twitter with people, is people want conference championships, right? I think people view Iowa as a tier 2 Big Ten team, right? Ohio State, arguably for a long time, was the only tier 1 team. Michigan has probably crept back up into that tier 1. And then you're looking at Penn State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan State, maybe, although they're fucking falling off. They're about to pay Mel Tucker $180 million to get him out of there. So, I was a tier 2 team. And I think the assumption is, at least from what I've gathered from fans, and, who cares about any one person's opinion, but people would like to see Iowa win a conference championship once every 7 to 10 years. And they'd like to see them compete 2 or 3 times every 10 years. Right. And, we've done that over the past decade, since 2015. We've been there twice. We were arguably
one game was not.
arguably we're one play away in 2015. Haven't won one since 2002 or 4. Fuck, I don't even remember. 2 when we
Or no, I think they might have shared both of them. 04, I know they definitely shared.
with Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's like when there's 16 teams in a conference, I mean, it gets real fucking hard to win a conference championship if there's 16, 18, 20 teams. Those conference championships as a marker of success become much less important.
I wonder if you could do something like this is like, you have 16 teams, maybe have like 2 divisions, but like in each division you have like a pod, like you got 4 teams, 4 teams, 4 teams, 4 teams.
I thought about
like
pod.
a 4-game tournament at the end of the year or 4-team tournament.
Ooh, a little tourney action.
That would be cool. That'd get you an extra game too.
Interesting. So you have 4 pods of 4.
Yep.
And then the top team from each pod goes into a 4, like the Big Ten's own 4-team playoff.
Basically, yeah.
I would not hate that.
Wouldn't hate it, but obviously the TV would love having an extra game to televise, extra 2 games. I guess
it makes the season long.
That's a long season, right?
And also, then you run the risk of like, okay, well, how are we dicing up these pods, right?
Also, would be an issue if they also expand the playoff to another couple rounds too.
Right.
Then you have college kids who are used to playing 12, 13 games. Now they're playing up to 16 games.
Congratulations, college players. It's now the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. But
you wanted NIL,
man. If they were to get like a revenue split and like teams actually started paying players like a revenue share, then I think the players would be like all for it. Like
I was just gonna say, would you sign up for it? I'd sign up for it.
For extra games, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Kev, I might even argue that
while we're at it, since we got 4 extra weeks, we got a whole extra game week. It's a prep, it's just use the first game week like camp, back off camp, bada bing, bada boom, play the extra at the end. You're gonna end up a better team anyways, less injuries. Sounds like a
Kev, take the 4-team playoff idea within the conference and just scrap the pods. And that way you're probably you just take the 4 best teams and put them in the playoff from that 1 16-team division where you're getting 9 random matchups or 8 random matchups. And now you probably eliminate the possibility of 5 undefeated teams, right? So now you've got, probably, I don't know, maybe one year there's 5 undefeated teams and the fucking conference is sitting there going, oh God, what do we do? But
I don't think that would be possible.
With 16 teams, it would be though.
No, because then all 5 of those teams would all have to play the same other 9 teams.
Yeah, you're right.
Which means that somebody in those other 9 teams is not. Yeah, I don't think it's possible.
You're right. It would, and even if it was, the likelihood of it happening would be like the odds on DRF Sports would be crazy. Speaking of, it is a championship weekend. There's a lot of fun conversation that we can have along that shit. We'll keep having these conversations because we now are entering sort of an off-season, different kind of mode for this podcast. There's a whole lot more Iowa stuff to talk about too, and we're going to bring that up, but I want to space it out a little bit. Padilla is in the transfer portal.
We're going after
Chris Murray.
RTA. Not McCarthy.
Evidently, not McNamara is supposedly. We're hunting down Tyler Barnes and the Hawkeye football accounts are following quarterbacks all over the place. We've got some people that are all big honorees and being invited to Senior Bowl, so we can talk about all of that after this week. But for now, everybody's favorite segment. Kev, do you even have picks this week? I assume you do.
It's championship week, you swine. And what do you think?
Kevin.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get it.
I'm going to be making my picks today on the fly, although can't be that hard. There's just championship games to go after. So
Charlie Jones over
like 7
receptions
games to choose.
and receiving yards.
Okay. Well,
want
the
both.
quarterback might not be playing because his brother died, but
What?
yeah. Aiden O'Connell's status for the championship game is right now questionable because his brother suddenly passed away.
Yikes.
So that's not good, and probably not good regarding Charlie Jones' stats during the game. However,
I bet he still plays.
I would put money on it, but yeah, that's it's definitely something that's heavy going into a big time game like that. Kev, give us your championship picks of the week.
So I think you guys know I like to bet unders a lot,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Even though
Big
life's
defensive
short,
minded guy.
but
I'm a defensive minded guy. So we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to go overs all weekend, baby.
Wow.
Starting off with the American Conference Championship, Tulane versus UCF. They played earlier in the year. The score is 38-31. I don't think these teams got great defenses at all. I like the over on 56.5.
Okay.
Moving on to the Big 12 championship game, TCU versus Kansas State. They played each other earlier to a 38-28 game. Good football game. Two good football teams. I like the over on 62.
I do too.
And lastly, we'll move down south to the SEC. Georgia versus LSU. I don't think LSU's defense is very good, but I think their offense might be able to score a little bit, just enough to get the total over 51 for the game. So we're overs club this weekend, baby.
The overs club, baby.
That
I
SEC
like it.
the game really goes over 51, huh?
51.
That'll be an interesting one to follow. I'm looking at these games. I like a few of these. I'm going to go to the Pac-12. USC with a win establishes themselves as the, assuming TCU wins, as the fourth team in this playoff and a 4 conference representation. Give me Utah to upset and put a little struggle.
2.5 points.
I'm taking the 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, they beat them last time straight up.
They did. And now on an alternate line of thinking, USC fighting for their spot in the playoffs. So is TCU. TCU loses to Kansas State, and that's going to throw a wrinkle in things as well. I think TCU, though, dominates. I think TCU is rolling. They mopped Iowa State last week. I see the line at 2.5 on this one as well. Give me the Horned Frogs and a undefeated Horned Frogs in the only undefeated. No, it would be Michigan and them, right?
Georgia's also undefeated.
And Georgia. Okay. So that's impressive. They've had quite the year. And then let's go to North Texas and UTSA.
Okay.
I've heard that
The Mean Green or the Roadrunners?
I've heard that this could be a competitive ball game. And I'm seeing 8.5 right now. Give me the Mean Green. Now, they were ass when they came to Kinnick. Back in 15. I'm looking at the... Yep, right there. It's on to Wisconsin. There's a picture of Jordan Canzeri running away from the Mean Green defense. We beat the shit out of them. But I think they're going to be able to hang, create a competitive game with the UTSA Roadrunners. Give me North Texas Mean Green to cover the 8.5 points. Those are my 3 picks. Drake,
you got like 8 games to choose from, man. Why don't you just go ahead and come out of retirement?
Give us a few picks. Come on.
How about you?
They win.
Do they cover?
But do they win by 17?
Michigan, they win.
But do they win by 17?
Listen, I'm picking money lines here. I'm going 3-0. And
All right.
And TCU wins because my buddy Tyler from high school, shout out Dirt, is a big TCU guy. Dirt and me. So we'll go with that.
Quote of the week. I'm going money line. I'm going 3-0. I'm picking money lines.
Yeah, I'm picking money lines because I'm going 3-0.
I think your TCU pick is now in trouble, Kluve.
Yeah, I'm probably fucked after that. thanks for listening to us this year. I saw a couple of you put us in your Spotify rap, similar to Ike and Bo. Some of you had us as your top listen podcast, spending a lot of time with the three of us in your ear. Can't say that's either a good or a bad thing. If you listen to this episode today, probably not the best influence, right? And if Kevin ends up as a head coach at some Division I school, hey, don't let him recruit your kid, huh? Right?
Or
And
no.
also, let's all take a nice lesson from our friend Mickey and Lincoln and try not to strangle your wife tonight. Huh? Okay. Good. Love you guys. We'll be back to recap the championship games and talk a whole bunch of other Iowa news. I think we can get pretty deep into the Iowa quarterback conversation as that whole situation could be flipped on its head as we head into this offseason. But for now, that is 373. Kevin, Drake, and myself are all going to go, I don't know, be sad that we didn't win the 2015 Big Ten championship game. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.